Okay. Uh, so on Xavi himself, and I just want to also preface it by saying that everyone knows my opinion on this. I think Koeman was a bad manager. I think there are definitely certain moments and certain times and teams and situations that will suit him. I think the Dutch national team before this seemed to be one of those situations, and I think that he the a lot of people will say, look, he lost Messi, and I'm sure that's not easy to deal with, and all the off-field
Of course.
distractions, and so there are
Look,
all those things he had to
odds
deal
were
with.
stacked against him, that's for sure.
Odds were stacked against him, but I said this on Twitter. I think even though that's true, I also think he was bad, and I think both things can
Yes.
be true. I think it's true
Yes.
that Barca have a lot of issues that any manager would have struggled with, but I also think that he just was not doing a good job. And
Yes.
I don't think that he maximized this squad to its potential.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
because we look at this Barca team on paper and it's actually really good, and I don't care that Messi left. I look at this squad on paper and I think it's a good team. That's my
Well,
opinion.
Keon, he's never proved a coach. That's the reality as well. Not at Everton, not at Southampton, not at Benfica. At the Dutch national team, we came from not qualifying for the World Cup and the Euro Cup back to back. So we had to get a little bit better at some point.
And by the way, for that
And
reason, I
he's
think Ten
put
Hag is a better choice than Xavi. He's more proven. We know what he can
right,
do. And you know why?
right.
To me, actually, like, for all the reasons that are obvious that he's more proven and he has a big game track record that Xavi hasn't even come close to, it's that he took an underdog team and like Ajax
Mm,
and put them
yeah,
deep into the Champions League. And that,
yeah.
as good as Barca are on
Could have been
paper,
finals.
they were an underdog team right now. Because if you look at
Mm,
the way I think, like, so from what I've read, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched his team play in, is it Qatar? I have not watched a single minute. I'm sorry, I did not do my scouting report. I've read a lot. I've read a lot of his interviews. I've also read a lot of scouting reports on the way he plays in Qatar currently. And it's not necessarily guaranteed that he will bring that exact same philosophy to Barca because the situation may be a little bit different. He may mend it a little bit. He may tweak it. I think it's fair to assume that he might. But given from what I've read, he has this very he has this approach where he plays very high up the field. He kind of plays this hybrid of like a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-2-4-1, that kind of situation where it's have the ball up the field, possess the hell out of the opponent, and find openings and press high and win the ball back as quickly as possible. Everything that he has stood for in the interviews, everything that Pep had Barca playing, that's how he plays. Look at Diego. You guys, if you're not watching this on video, Diego has a glaze in his eyes, and you can kind of tell, like, we can't see his hands, but they're under the table, but you can just see things are happening. I'm explaining this. I mentioned Pep, I mentioned possession, I mentioned control, and Diego's face just lit up. Anyways,
I'm in heaven right now. Please
uh,
continue.
but from what I understand,
Get some
and this
tissue.
is from what I've read, um, everyone he faces in Qatar is basically incredibly inferior and can't defend them. And when he comes up in the bigger continental games, that same style can struggle and can get exposed defensively. So the reason I bring this up is that if you would Xavi mend it so that if he goes up against Bayern in the Champions League, would he play the same way? Or would he just play that way gung ho and deal with getting ripped apart in certain games and rip teams apart in other games? I just would trust, all the reasons I mentioned that Ten Hag would be way better choice. I would trust Ten Hag would be able to play to his opposition a little bit better and has the track record of taking an underdog team. So
That for me is the key. He has the experience. He's got the track record, not just at Ajax but also at Bayern. He learned directly from Pep as well, obviously from Cruyff, and he's had to implement it season after season. While Ajax, as big as a club as it is, it's a selling club, and he's had to readjust and deal with his squad being, picked apart by the big spenders and still come out on top with an identifiable style of play, with great talent individually, but also collectively, good mindset of hungry, young, ambitious football players that just buy into his coaching style, and I'm truly fascinated by it, and as well as Xavi, of course. But my only doubt is, and perhaps again, estoy pecando de ser demasiado conservativo, right? Like I'm too conservative right now because of simply because of the same was said of Pep, right? But Pep comes from the B team, the Barca B team. How can you already give him the keys to the first team? Ludicrous and everything. And there were many skeptics. It was not a long time ago. And I just want to have the faith as well in Xavi, seeing where he comes from, his upbringing, his full belief, this firm belief in that style of football, and how good he was as well, how good his communication was, how good his teachers were, your Peps and Cruijffs, but also Van Gaal, and how his interpretation really just excelled under Pep's, mandate and trainings and everything. That gives me, but also Aragonés, also Del Bosque, surely. So Xavi's got a really interesting mix here of teachers, Van Gaal, as I mentioned as well, and that with his football mind. Again, we're talking about the greatest Spanish football player ever. You have to have faith in him as well to be able to. Pass on his teachings or I guess mold and give birth to his philosophy and his football thoughts and his ideas in a club like Barca with the right talent. And it's an exciting prospect. Like I said, it could be the second coming. I feel like it is. And in my heart of hearts, obviously, I want to believe it's like a Pep 2.0 and that we're just in for glory and greatness again. And by that, I don't even mean like your sextetes and tripletes, which some clubs that claim to be the biggest club in the world have never won before. But I do, I hope you're still listening.
I am, definitely.
That should have, sparked a little reaction in your face. It didn't. But I have hope that we're back able to not just compete, but compete with an identifiable style of play, and one that's going to excite us, and one that's really going to. I'll tell you what, man. The reason why it was so great to bring my son to his very first game, that being the Clásico, besides the anthem and everything, was seeing all the Barca fans as well. So keen to get behind the team and to support the team, so happy to be back at the stadium, and so eager for a reconnection with the team that even under Koeman they were I've seen this crowd be a lot more critical at better times, let's say. So it's just I just hope it's going to be good. I think that the people will be very patient with Xavi. We know it's an uphill task. Hey, look, I know Gaspar came out and said, we're going to win the triplete now. But I hope he was being either ironic or being the radical that he is, that he actually truly believes that. And by that, I mean wholeheartedly supporting Xavi. But, this season, we have to be realistic. We're 9th right now. Tuesday, if we don't fucking win against Kiev, we're out of the Champions League.
Even if it
cannot be understated.
Even if you win, it's no guarantee.
Even if so he has a lot of work to do, Xavi. It's not going to be easy.
Well, I have some stuff to say. I want to ask you a question, but I also just want to say, I think a lot of people make fun of Xavi a lot in the non-Barcelona circles.
Oh,
because a lot of his quotes are, to a lot of people, kind of just off the mark and a little bit woo-woo and a little bit too philosophical, and they just think he's just crazy, as a coach. And I don't think there is a deniance of his greatness as a player, but they do wonder how it would translate to a coaching kind of philosophy. And I just want to say I'm not one of those people. I actually think that he is going to be a really good coach. I think it's going to be contextual and situational. I don't know if he would succeed anywhere, but if you tell me that Barca has a certain breed of players and he wants to play a certain way, I feel like it'll work. But I also there's this weird part of me that feels that it's either going to be like spectacular with him or like just shit. It's going to be like trebles and success, or it's going to be a disaster. And I don't think it's going to be trebles and stuff like that because I don't think Barcelona currently have the personnel to pull that off, even with God as coach. But I think he is going to be a good coach. And I think there were like when I said like would he tweak the way he plays and stuff, and I actually I can kind of maybe answer my own question. I have no guarantee, but Sid Lowe retweeted today an interview he did with Xavi back in 2011, and I was reading it, and one of the questions was about style over success, and like this one, I'll read. I feel like it's important to read the context of this question. I think you would enjoy this, Diego.
Nice.
So keep your hands where I can see them. All right. So Sid asks him, "You're talking about style over success, but not only can they go together, they have to go together. Arsenal played great football." This is back in 2011. Arsenal played good football. Arsene Wenger is a hugely respected coach, but they've not won anything for years. Could that happen at Barcelona? And Xavi's answer was, quote, "It's almost impossible. If you go 2 years without winning, everything has to change. But you change names, not identity. The philosophy can't be lost. Our fans wouldn't understand a team that sat back and played on the break. Sadly, people only look at teams through success. Now success has validated our approach. I'm happy because from a selfish point of view, 6 years ago, I was extinct. Footballers like me were in danger of dying out. It was all 2 meters tall, powerful, in the middle, knockdown, second balls, rebounds, but now I see Arsenal and Villarreal. They play like us," end quote. So quotes like this are, by the way, are what drive a lot of fans nuts, is because so many teams win without playing this way and they find it disrespectful, right? So because the way you play is subjective, people enjoy different things, and I think a lot of people feel like this way that Barcelona play is like, they look down on other teams who play differently because they're like, this is how football should be played, blah, blah, blah. Right. I don't really want to get into that too. It's all subjective. Certainly when Barca is winning playing like that, it's going to be in our face. And when they lose and they play like that, it's going to be flipped the other way. It's kind of going to go back and forth. And ultimately it depends on how good you are and really, etc. Anyways, the reason I bring that up is because I think that kind of answers the question, like what, I think he's just, we know how he's going to play. I feel like based on that alone, almost, we kind of know how he's going to play. But I wanted to ask you, do you think that Xavi is crazy for wanting to come now? Like, don't you feel like it would be smarter for him to at least come next season? So, because if you think about it, like you said, Diego, all the things that Koeman, the way he was playing, whether it was the crosses, the three at the back, and all that stuff. And now Xavi has to come in with a wildly different identity and try to do this mid-season. How patient will Barcelona fans be? How patient will the board be? Like, is it just expected? Like, maybe this year is a write-off. We just let him do his thing, and it's not going to work right away. And then, or what's the scenario?
Every time. Right. I mean, a trainer should always have objectives, right? And I think that the objectives have to be realistic, of course. I mean, Koeman got a year's time, at least a year and a half. And Xavi, at this point, will have, I mean, what is it? This weekend is match day 11. So what is that, 25, 26? Yeah, 27? No. Jesus, I can't do my fucking math. Anyway, let's say a little bit over 25 games left to basically make sure that we at least qualify for the Champions League. Right now, we're 9th. We're 9 points away from the league leaders, 6 away from Madrid. If you're looking at the league standings, which I need to pull up real quick, that has to be the primary objective. qualify for Champions League, because we have a good chance already missing out on the Champions League come Tuesday. Now, in terms of time, I talked about the patience that fans are going to have with him, including the board. Think about it. This is the first time that Laporta will have his, ever since he started his second mandate, have his actual bet, his guy in charge of the team, right? Koeman, of course, came with the package when they became, him and his board became the new sheriffs in town when after the presidential elections. So, and obviously they kept Koeman. Well, I mean, we don't need to recall now what had happened with Koeman, or the reason, let's say, why Koeman wasn't relieved from his duties over the summer, even though he was given that famous 2-week margin of, you're the coach until I can find somebody better or more of my liking in 2 weeks. That didn't happen. La-di-da-di-da. He's fired now. Now Xavi is his guy. So the board is going to be patient with him. Patient with Xavi. It's the return of one of the prodigal sons of La Masia. It's the hope of all of us Barca fans, along with Ansu Fati, that we can turn this team into what it once was. With Pedri, with your Gavi, with your Nico, with your Araujo, with hopefully, Yusuf, with Memphis, with the young Frankie, with still a Busi that, at least when he plays for Spain, plays awesome, and has something left in the tank. But, and Alex Balde, I would like to see get opportunities away more than or start eating into Jordi Alba's minutes a whole lot more. I would hope that Serginho Dest would maybe improve, and that Xavi would know how to get a better production out of Dest. Mingueza, same goes for him. A Gerard Piqué, who has to also assume that now his buddy from back in the day is in charge and in a very important role, in a very important position of a club, of a team that is also very dear to his heart, a club of which he will once undoubtedly become president. So I hope that he also is mature enough to, which I think he is, to allow his, Xavi, his friend, to operate as the way a manager should, and that is to have absolute 100% control over the team and not demand just an intense morning session, but why not 2 training sessions a day of 2.5 hours, or at least one good training session of, let's say, 2.5-3 hours, where you give it your all and allow really the trainer to just mold the team according to his belief and have the full support and backing of the players. And I think that'll be fundamental for Xavi. I mean, big time. We'll see we'll see if anything can be done in the transfer market. I think, there's talks of potentially Xavi being interested in Koundé of Sevilla. Aren't we all? Exactly. So
for sure, I can't see Luke de Jong being part of this. I don't know how.
Well, he's gonna have a nice year here, Luke, mijn arme jongen. Ja, joh, geniet ervan. Just enjoy it, and who knows? He's here on loan, so it was never a sure thing, right? And let's see.
Is he a loan? I honestly thought you signed him.
No, it's a loan. It's a year loan.
Yeah, right. I don't know why I thought you signed him, because I guess maybe it's because I saw that there was a rumor that Barca wanted to get rid of him in January, and I just assumed that would be a sale. But then I guess you could potentially throw him back to Sevilla, although I don't know if they seem like they need him this season so far. But yeah, dude.
But there was really, I actually wanted to comment on the Sid Lowe interview as well, and or that question, which really sums it up. And you're right. It's and on your comment as well from before, whether it'll be an absolute failure or just complete sheer and utter success, I think that's you're putting two crazy extremes here,
Oh, for
Kian.
sure. I'd say it's an irrational thing. It's just more of
Right.
like a. It's just more of like a feeling that like.
So
I,
you're a bit nervous, is what you're saying.
I don't know if it's nerves is the right word. I actually, again, like I said, I think a lot of Madridistas made jokes on Twitter, like, please let it be Xavi and not Ten Hag and all that stuff. And while
Mm.
I don't think they're wrong in feeling that way, because Ten Hag is a great coach, and I think Ten Hag will do amazing things with Barca. Um, at the same time, I'm not as low on Xavi as those people who make those jokes because I don't. I feel like he's a really cerebral player, and whether those quotes rub you the wrong way or not, it's his way of looking at football, and I don't think there's anything
Think
wrong with
about
it.
it as well. The Clásico will mean something again as well. Finally.
Oh,
Uh,
I've always said this, like, well, for always, but like the last like 2 years, that eventually the Raúl versus Xavi era begins, and this is going to be great. It's going to be great. We need fireworks back in the Clásico, so.
so let's talk about how shit Madrid is.